Wow, thank you so much, Brother Yasser, for those amazing words. Good evening, everyone. How are you this evening? Everyone looks incredible. It's an honor to be here. I'm sorry I can't stay the entire evening, but tomorrow's Christmas Eve, so I have to get back home. First of all, thank you so much for the invitation. Thank you for allowing me to say a few words, and thank you to everyone in the audience, and I see some people at different tables, who have supported me before many of you even knew who I was. There are people in this audience who have been with me since I ran for office in 2019 for the 2020 election, an improbable election. I ran against Congressman Eliot Engel. Eliot Engel was in office for 31 years. He was a 16-term incumbent. He was chair of the Foreign Affairs Committee, and he was the #1 pro-war Israel hawk in Washington. When I decided to run as an educator, no one thought I had a chance. Everyone said, no one knows who you are. You have no money. He is super powerful. He is establishment. He has millions of dollars. You do not have a shot. But I ran based on my strong faith, based on how my mother raised me to be and what my mother raised me to do. But most importantly, I ran because of the children I served in public education for 20 years. I was an educator for 20 years before I decided to run for office. Some of you may have not known that. I started my career as an elementary school teacher in the South Bronx. I worked there for about 5 or 6 years. I then became a high school guidance counselor where I served for about 3 or 4 years at the High School for Arts and Technology. And it was at that moment that I realized, speaking of public schools, Mr. Chairman, that our public schools were not doing nearly enough to unlock the unlimited potential of our kids. And our public schools weren't doing nearly enough to engage the families from all communities to enrich and inform our curriculum. So I had a crazy idea. I said, you know what? I'm going to open up my own school. I'm going to write a proposal. I'm going to write all my dreams of the public school I want to run one day onto a composition notebook. I then got into a program which trained me on how to be a school leader. I wrote the proposal, submitted it to New York City, and they said in September 2009, Mr. Bowman, we're going to let you open up a school. And I ran that school for 10.5 years to the best of my ability, and it was rooted in the unlimited potential and capacity of the children that I served. I was tired of Black, South Asian, Latino, Muslim, brown children being left behind in our schools. And I wanted our school curriculum to be rooted in the history and culture of the children that I served. And because we were able to do that, we were able to become one of the most high-achieving middle schools in New York City. But it wasn't enough, because our kids were still going through pain and suffering. They were still going through lack of affordable housing, lack of affordable childcare, living in food deserts, having people who were criminal justice entangled. They were still going through mental health challenges that we were not doing enough to address. And of course, going through racism and discrimination and Islamophobia in all its forms. And then I looked to see who was in office at that time. Someone who moved out of the community and lived in Washington. Someone who served the rich white people in the district but didn't serve anybody else. And I noticed in the last election, with 435,000 people registered to vote, only 24,000 people, Mr. President, voted. I want to say this again because I want to piggyback on what was said before. Of 435,000 registered Democrats in the district, only 24,000 people voted. And this person was in Washington with all this power by getting 20,000 votes only. So when we look at what's happening in Gaza right now, the mass murder, the slaughter, the humanitarian crisis, the genocidal behavior, this is the moment for us to organize and build coalitions and leverage our power across all of New York State and all of New York City. It is despicable and disgusting and inhumane that I am one of 3 members of Congress in New York State to call for a ceasefire. One of 3. The majority of elected officials not only have not called for a ceasefire, but they don't even acknowledge the existence of Palestinians. People come up to me and say that I am brave for even saying Palestine. What is that? The reason why we are at this point is because of the erasure and the dehumanization of Palestinians, Muslims in the Arab world for decades. I remember 9/11, yes, sir. I remember my brothers, Caleb and Dardik, how their mothers couldn't walk home from work without being harassed after 9/11 because of the hijab and how they dressed. I remember that personally and clearly. And I'm so fortunate and blessed that I was raised in a community that was diverse. We all lived together in our beautiful diversity. We lived together, we played together, we went to school together. I had dinner at Yasser's house, I can't even count how many times. And my brothers Abdul, and again, Dardik and Khalid. Dinner at their house, I was probably in your house once a week. That was my upbringing. That's who I am. And so to fight for human rights, to fight for justice and equality, it is not foreign to me. It is not a thing I had to learn in school. It is who my mother raised me to be. And in my readings of the Bible and the Quran, it is how God wants us to be as well. So how can we have members of Congress who claim to be God-fearing be silent as the mass slaughter is happening in Gaza? This is our moment, brothers and sisters. This is our moment. 1.5 million Muslims in New York State, many more Muslims around the country. We have the power to determine elections. We have the power to determine who is the governor, who is the mayor, who is the senator, who is the member of Congress. We have the power to do this. But we need to make sure every single Muslim that is eligible is registered to vote. Every single one. If you're 18 years of age and older and you are a citizen, you have to be registered to vote. Here's what I challenge you to do. Every mosque in the state needs to have voter registration tables and cards at every Friday prayer, every Friday for the rest of the year, going into 2024. It has to happen. Every mosque, every Friday, 2024, voter registration cards. You can get them from your board of elections in whatever county you live in. You can get a bunch. Designate a coordinator to do this for you. Also, this is a very important point. In order for you to vote in primaries in New York State, you have to be registered with a party. If you are registered as an independent, you cannot vote in primaries. In New York State, because we are so democratic for the most part, you have to vote in a party, you have to register in a party to vote in a primary. That's where your power is. Now, I don't want to tell you which party to join, but I'm a Democrat. And only Democrats are calling for a ceasefire right now. Not enough of us are, but many of us are, in Congress, I mean. So you have to register, and you have to register in a party. Now, for anyone who is not a citizen in your communities, you can't stay quiet. You have to knock on doors. You have to make phone calls. You have to write postcards. You have to hold meetings in your house. You have to be involved. Because those who exercise power are organizing every day to take power away from you and me and us. They're not stopping. They are working every day to keep power away from us. So we have to work as hard and fight as hard. Also, yes, register. Yes, register for a party. But then we have to remind each other of when the election days are, and who's running, and who needs a ride, and who am I going to give a ride, and how are they going to get there. This is the kind of organizing we have to do. And then lastly, tonight is a fundraiser. So please, give money to this amazing organization. Whatever you gave, give a couple more dollars. It's very helpful. Also, as Brother Ali mentioned, I am in a tough race against someone well-regarded. He's already lying to the people, but he's well-regarded. AIPAC has recruited him to run against me. If you don't know who AIPAC is, look them up, AIPAC. They have one issue, Israel. They don't only fund Democrats, they fund Republicans who supported the insurrection. They fund Republicans who are election deniers. And they have a ton of resources. They said they will spend $100 million to get me and my colleagues out of office. Why? Because not only have we called for a ceasefire, this isn't new. We condemn the blockade of Gaza and the open-air prison. We condemn the occupation of Palestine. We condemn the detaining of children and women in the West Bank. We did this before October 7th, ever since we got into office. And so this is our moment. And we are going to win, inshallah. We don't take anything for granted. So thank you for allowing me to say a few words. Thank you for allowing me to be here with you tonight. I say we are going to win, inshallah, because we must win. Because if we don't win in this moment for humanity, we are going to enter a very dark time. We are already in a very dark time. 20,000 civilians, most of them women and children, babies rotten in incubators because the energy was cut off in hospitals. This is barbaric. The right-wing fascist leadership in Israel, Netanyahu and others, are using biblical language to describe what they are doing right now. And they are planting flags in Gaza because they plan to settle. This has been Netanyahu's plan all along, and we all know this, and it's been devastating that my colleagues in Washington are not calling this out. But the only way to change it is all of us coming together and not waiting for someone else to do it. We got to do it ourselves. So God bless you. Have a good night. It's good to be with you. Sorry I can't stay long, but we will be together again. Inshallah. Thank you so much. God bless you.